so we know we're in the right place.
The test is, are you in the right place? So, no, it's all about testing. Okay, all right. And so there's lots of different ways to create tests. And especially when you're creating tests in Blackboard, you can go in and use a lot of different testing questions in Blackboard, but you can also, as we've all done, created tests in a Word document, and we've done them in the classroom. What Respondus does is it takes this Word document that you're very used to creating a test in, and in less than a minute, you can put it in Blackboard. No more of that click, 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 click to that, okay? And what it does is you can spell check in your document, and then you can really be sure of your answer being correct, that you haven't accidentally selected something else while it's moving on. Has anybody here used Respondus? Great. Okay, we have experts in the back of the room. Okay, all right. So it's very, very easy to use. Okay, all right. And so I'm Jane Sims. I'm with the Academic Technologies team, and this is
Amy Nelson. I'm with the Academic Technologies team as well.
And so we're going to share with you some of our experiences with Respondus, and with using some of the Blackboard test questions, and then setting tests up and choosing the different feedback options and talking about some of those implications. Because maybe we've all had that experience where all of a sudden the students are saying, hey, I got this question, or I answered this question this way, why was it answered or marked this way, and we didn't intend for them to perhaps see that part. So setting the feedback settings is very, very critical, especially if you're wanting to use your questions over and over from one semester to another, or if you've got multiple sections and your students in the morning, you don't want them to be sharing that information with your students in the afternoon. We're also going to be talking about one of the formats, the types of questions in Blackboard that has a lot of possibilities, especially for doing case kind of questions, and you can be building pools from that. It's a question where you can actually have up to 10 questions inside the one question. Okay? All right. And it's got the odd name of jumbled sentence. Has anybody heard of jumbled sentence? Okay. Blackboard must have had a sense of humor when they figured that one out. Okay? All right. So what we're hoping to do here is to spend a little time getting all of you set up in Respondus. And to help with that, we've got Mark Bell from our IT group. He manages for that setup and the downloads, and so he can help us work through that as well. Okay, but first we want to show you a demonstration of what you can do with it. And it starts with your Word document. Really, this is where you take most of your time. When you're creating your document in Word, you create, your number one for your question stem and your answer choices, just like normal, right? And Word puts in that wonderful automatic formatting where it goes A, B, C, D, right? Okay. When you start typing in a Word document, if I were to create a new one and just do and I can't type. So that if I want to mark my correct answer choice, I put an asterisk in front of that letter. Okay, I can't do that here because it's got all that formatting. So what I do is I just go ahead in my document and I type in all my questions. Then I do 3 simple things. Control A selects it all. Control X cuts it all. Control V puts it back in, and immediately after I go to that little icon and I choose A, the text option, and then I can put an asterisk in front. Okay, don't mind my how this looks here. My default, my template for my line spacing is just all kind of messed up.
Could you do the last one again?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. Play around with this, okay? All right, so I'm just going to undo what I did here with my formatting. So I typed in everything here. Oh. So then, Control A, I'm selecting all. Control X, cutting it all out. Control V, pasting it right back in. But I come here and click on that little icon right at the bottom, and I choose the A to just have text. And it takes out all that other formatting. Now I can go back and put in my asterisk in front of whichever letter is correct. That's a quick trick. Okay. So then I have my document. And you can set up different kinds of questions. The most common ones are multiple choice. So you've got a couple ways you can do it. You've got your question stem here is at number 1, and then you've got your A, B, C, D. You can have a space between your options and your question stem if you want. When you respond to C, your letters, your A, B, C, D, it's A period space or A period tab or A parentheses tab or space. Those are no longer just letters. It's coding to respond. So it's looking for that. So if you were to set up a question and you were to say, number 1, Respondus software tolerates the following formats, and then you were to say answer choices 1, font style, 2, tables, 3, etc., that would confuse Respondus because it's looking for a number for a question and letters for the answers. And then you go down to number 2. As I scroll down through my document, what you'll notice is that I just have numbers and questions. I don't have any instructions in between because all it's looking for is your questions, right? So as we scroll down to these different types of questions, there's a true and false. True and false is really just a multiple choice question that only has 2 options. But true is always the top one, okay, when you're setting them up. Okay, so if you have a multiple answer course or question, you have to tell Respondus that. So it's type :space MA. Let me make this a little bit bigger on the screen. I'll just have to do that. Okay, so type :space MA for multiple answer. You don't have to do that for multiple choice or true false because of the default. So then I can, I selected all of these as correct, right? So then you can set that question up as a partial credit if you want to in your test. What if you want to fill in the blank? That's a type :F, fill in the blank. However, I don't recommend using fill in the blanks because if you do that, what you have to do is you have to type in for options all of the different possible answers you would accept as correct, including the different spellings, perhaps of names, hyphenations, ways that students are going to misspell something. So I just really recommend, and a fill in blank is kind of a low level recall type of question. So I really recommend that you don't use that one. And then finally, you've got essay questions. And that's a type :space E. Now, I don't put any points in here. I don't have any instructions for students. That's going to go in Blackboard when I get that set up. So that's my document. Notice I don't have any asterisks in my type F for fill in blank because that's just different options. My asterisks are from my multiple answers, my multiple choice, and my true and false. Okay. So, just got my document, and then I save it. So when I use Respondus to upload it, you can't have that Word document open because it's going to be doing something with it. So I'm going to go to my Respondus. And we have a campus-wide license for this. I have to have a folder missing, so please ignore that. We have a campus-wide license. And every July 31st, it renews, and there's a new password. So if you got it, you're going to have to go in and upload that new password. And you can get that from our website, okay? I should have loaded up where to get that, but we'll get there. you can go in Respondus and you can set up tests just the same way you do it in Blackboard, but that involves a whole lot of clicking. So all we're looking for here is to import questions because we already have them in a document. And some people prefer to save their document as a text file, .txt, to strip out the formatting. Remember, we did that with a few quick tricks. I can't talk this morning. Okay. So I'm going to import questions, and I'm going to find my document type. I'm going to find the location for it. It happens to be in downloads. And I click on open. If you don't have the right document type, your document is not going to show up there. So then you have to go back up and say, oh yeah, it really was there. And then you can create a new document. 306, and then preview it. So what it's going to do is it's going to take a look at it, and it's going to give you some warnings if you have some issues. Okay? Down in the bottom, in the box here, is a warning. This is a good warning. This is the only good warning. What Respondus is doing is in the title column here, it's taking the first few characters of your screen, of your question, and you can see it on the screen here, and it's coding it again. So if you've got a couple of questions which start off the same way, it wants to make them different, so it adds a number at the end. So it says, warning, there's a duplicate question title, meaning the first part of a couple of questions are the same, and so it's just adding some code. You don't need to worry about that at all. You might see warnings in here that says there were no answer options. Maybe you forgot to put an asterisk in. Or maybe you forgot to put a period after your A, or something like that. If you get a mistake like this, I just cancel out of here. I go back to my Word document, and I take a look at that. So I'm going to go back into my Word document. And some of you might use Google Docs, but I like to use, and I haven't used Google Docs very much, so I don't know where everything's at, but I know in Word that there's this handy icon up here. It's called this show hide. And so I can turn that on and off, and I can see all those spaces or periods. And it's a real fast way for me, especially with my own eyes, to be able to see if I have any extra things. Especially when sometimes if you've got a long question stem, and if you're typing, if you put a hard return to make it force to that next line, it thinks you're going on to another question. So you have to take out that return and let it just automatically wrap as it goes around. So if I keep going like this, it's going to automatically wrap, and then that's going to be correct. Okay? So using that little icon at the top is what really helps me to make sure that I don't have errors, but if Respondus tells me I have errors, it's a good way for me to find it. Does anybody use this? This feature, this part of this? So I'm here, I'm browsing. I'm previewing. Got those warnings, and then I click finish. So this is the first step, all right? And what it's doing, it's taking a little bit of time here, and what it's doing is converting it into Respondus. Once it converts it into Respondus, then I'm going to upload it into Blackboard. Okay. So as soon as it gives me a screen that. So then I go to my tabs at the top, and I can preview my file and my questions. I can take a look at which one was marked right, and I can modify the item. But if I find that if I have a mistake, I would like to go back to my original document, because I might be using that in another instance. Maybe I'll share it with another instructor teaching another section. I want to make sure that it's So I publish to Blackboard, and I use the Publish Wizard. Now, the first time it's going to take you about 5 minutes because you have to set it up. What it's doing is logging into Blackboard as you. Okay? So it will ask you for a server name. So it's an add new server, and then you can do that, and then you'll follow the steps. It will automatically go out and find it. It will ask you to log in, and then a little box will appear for you to check to remember your settings. You can choose to check to remember your settings or not. I don't, because our password changes a lot, and I don't want to have to try to remember or to orient that Blackboard password and my Respondus password. So I just go in every time and just re-enter in my Blackboard password. So what it's doing, it's logging into that. So it wants to know who I am. Let's see this. And now it brings up a list of my courses. Okay. So I'm going to go into one of my courses, and I can create a new exam, or I can put it into a pool. At this point, I can change the name of it or not. Down in number 3, I uncheck these top 2 items, and it takes the last one because I want to set my points once I'm in Blackboard. And then I click next, and then it's uploading it into Blackboard, and so it's done. So I'm done with Respondus. So I talked a lot through that, but really it does take less than a minute once you've got your Word document set up. Okay. You can also use Respondus to pull down publisher tests. Some of them have their own systems, but you can do it through Respondus as well. Another thing you can use Respondus for is to back a test out of Blackboard. So sometimes you have a test in Blackboard and you want to do some updates to it. You can use Respondus to back it out and then into a Word document, edit it, and then put it back up. Okay. All right. So we want to try to set up Respondus on our computers now. All right. Okay.
So, quick question. When you created this way, is this just a regular Blackboard quiz now, or is this a Respondus quiz in Blackboard? Do students have to have Respondus?
This is just a regular quiz in Blackboard. If I go into my Blackboard now, into my, scroll down here, my test surveys and pools. There it is at the very top. Okay. And when I take a look at it, if I go click on edit, all my questions are in there, and they're all going to be in the default at 1 point. And this is where I can then go into my test and I can change my points. Okay. Let's go and let's download Respondus. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have to probably call on Mark to say, where do I go? Can I go to Help Desk or?
If you have Windows 10, you want to go to the Start menu. And then you want to do the Software Center.
So I'm going to,
up.
So I can go to the Software Center there, or
Yep.
if I can't see that, I can always go to my
You can always search
my
for it.
glass and
Yep.
search for it. So I can go to the Software Center.
Now, the nice thing about our Software Center is that anything that's listed in there will not require an administrator password to install. We're trying to flesh it out, so if you have ideas for software you want, please contact the help desk and we'll make sure that we'll do everything we can to get it added.
This is only for Windows 10.
This is only for Windows 10 at this time, yep.
Oh, and a caveat, Respondus does not work on Macs. So you can do everything. You can create your Word document. Just go find a lab computer or something, or see if you can have a departmental computer that has Respondus, and then just go in there and log in and upload it. It'll just take a minute.
So then from here you would click on the icon for Respondus, and then I believe, okay, in this case, you just click on the install button and it will install it automatically for you. as soon as it says the install is done, you'll have an icon on your desktop and it'll be ready to run. It will include the licensing and all of the other setup that we used to have to do manually in Windows 7 as well.
How many in here have Windows 10? How many do not have Windows 10 and need to do it the other way?
If you do not have Windows 10, contact the help desk, and we'll arrange to have someone come and help. We found out this morning that the link is kind of buried inside the web page and it's hard to find. So
Yeah, about 5 or 6 clicks in.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. So yeah, we can help you out. And that's the nice thing about it is that we've got Zoom at the help desk and we can see your screen, and so we can walk you right through it. Okay. So, is anybody installing this now? Okay. Yeah.
A couple things that I found out as I was working on this. Thank you. As I was working on this the other day, is that in Respondus, when you're looking at before you publish it, one of the defaults that I noticed is that one of the things that you can do is you can group questions into random blocks. So let's say, for instance, you have 10 of your questions are related to a certain lesson, and you only need 5 of those. You can group 10 of those, and then automatically within your quiz, you can say, I only want to select 5 of them. So if you want to do random select stuff, you can do that within here. So you can group the questions. The only thing is you have to have them in order. So for example, I've been writing HIPAA questions lately. So I ended up grouping them. So I have lesson 1, I've got 5 questions, lesson 2, 5 questions, etc. And then I'm grabbing 3 of those in the blocks. So that's something you can do. And I'm certainly willing to help with that as you get into that.
Do you have to do that within Respondus, or can you do that right in Blackboard?
You can do, I believe you can do that in Blackboard as well. You just have to select them in Blackboard. So you have to just set them up.
In Blackboard, you would take them and put them into a pool.
Okay.
And then in your test, you would say, go into this pool and select X number of questions.
The other thing is you can put your availability in here as well, so that will automatically go into Blackboard, or you can do it in Blackboard, either way. So you can make the exam visible. If you wanted to, you could add an announcement. You can put in the number of attempts. You can force the completion. You can put the time limit on the exam. So all of the things that you do in Blackboard, you can do here as well. But the thing that I really want to point out is this other settings piece. It does have the feedback here, just like you do in Blackboard, as you can set up when the students see the results. Maybe they see what their score is right afterwards. You can set that up here. But probably the biggest thing that I want to point to is this question presentation here at the bottom. Is you can do the show all at once, or you can do one question at a time. You can also randomize the questions. In other words, put them in a different order within the test. But here's the big one, very bottom. If you ended up setting up your question answers as A, B, C, D, E, and E is always none of the above or A, B, and C above, that type of thing, you need to make sure that number 1, you don't randomize your answers in that question, but then number 2, you select that lowercase option here. Or else, as you notice when that test was imported, all of a sudden you get just like a normal test you see all the time with pick this answer or this answer. But if one of your answers was A and B, now all of a sudden there's no A and B anymore. And if you made the mistake of saying, yes, randomize those answers, now the students are really confused. So that's the one point here that I just pay attention to as you're doing that. And it totally depends on how you ended up setting up that test.
Do we have Respondus installed for anyone? Is it installed yet? Okay, all right, so that was pretty quick. If you want to try it out, what we have on the website with our for the conference, with the full descriptions and the grid, we do have a link to a test. Well, the same test that I showed here that you can download and you can play around with, or you can check it out for the fun. As long as we have it up on the screen, let's talk a little bit about after you set your test up, the kinds of feedback options. Do we need to go through setting up a test? Has everybody set up a test in Blackboard, or should we go through that? Who has not set up a test in Blackboard? Okay, all right. Well, then let's take a minute and let's just go through that. Okay. So we have a test in Blackboard here now. This is the one that we just set up, and all of my questions are worth 1 point. And I can tell that because at the top of the screen it says I have 15 questions and 15 points. Any? Okay, all right. So what I can do is, I'm thinking that most all of my questions I want them to be 2 points. So what I can do is I can go to select all and put in a 2, and it's going to check the box for all of my questions down there. I scroll down, and I click update. And so now 15 questions, 30 points. Maybe there are some of them that I want to be something different, especially my essay questions. What I could do, when I've got 2 essay questions, I can come here, check the box, say I want these to be 5, and update, and it's just going to update those. Okay. Here's even one more variation. Let's say this one, I want to make it different. I want to change the points on just that one, but maybe I want to make it an extra credit question. I do that individually here, and then I click send. Okay. So if a student chooses not to answer it and gets it wrong, it's not going to be tracked in the grid. So when I come back to my test, I follow my Chrome trail at the top of the screen. I see in the deployed column, the word no, it is not yet deployed. You can see my other tests down there are deployed. And so I'm going to go into my assignments area. So you have to go into an area of your course where you want students to see your tests. Now some instructors have an area called assignments. I did it for convenience in this workshop, but we really recommend that if you're setting up your course, you kind of set it up sequentially, like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, so that students have everything they need in that particular folder and just one place to go and see it. Okay? You could set some of these things up on the side to link back into that, but it's really nice for you to manage what students see when. You can work ahead of them and hide things. And so if you have questions about how to set your course up, just visit the instructional designer. So I'm going to go to assessments here, and I'm going to choose a test. Any new tests that I've added always show up at the bottom of the list. I'm going to just select it. I can change the name. I can write my instructions in here. See the word Respondus? It put that in automatically. There are 15 questions, and you have 2 attempts. Your score is an average of the attempts.
And that's something you set up. You can say maximum if you want to of the 2 attempts, or you could just say average of the 2 attempts.
Or last attempt. Mm-hmm. So then I'm going to open the test up in the window, or actually, no, I choose not to open it up in the window. Some people do. I'm making the link available. Here I'm setting up 2 attempts. If you're setting up tests and quizzes in here for students just to practice, and you've got a great big pool and it's randomly pulling in questions, you can do unlimited. If you are having an exam and you want them to complete at one setting, then you would choose your first complete. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to let them play around with it. If you do choose force complete, Then you can set a timer to see how long it's taking. If you set the timer, I usually choose auto submit to off in case they have problems with it. If they have problems and they have to contact you or somebody at the help desk, that timer keeps running and it could lock them out of the test. All right? So you can always check that in the grade center and you know how much time they've taken if they've gone over it, and you can adjust it accordingly if you want. You can set up availability dates for when the test becomes available and the time and when it goes away. Now this display until means I have until this time to open it up. If you did not choose force complete, I could open it up, and if I never shut my computer off, that test is open and I can keep doing it even though that time has passed. Okay. So you can do that. Test availability exceptions. Maybe you have some students who need to take the test early or late, or maybe you have a student that needs some more time. So we're going to pick on Head from our help desk, and maybe we want to give her unlimited attempts. Maybe we want to make it available at a different time. So we can set that up for her and set up a due date for the test. And if you want students not to be able to take it after the test is passed, then you can do that. It's not showing me that here until I put the due date in, and then I can check it. Self-assessment options, I leave this area alone because I can also do this in the grade center. The reason I leave this alone is especially this one down here where it says hide results from this test completely from the instructor and the grade center. Sometimes you put tests in for students just to practice and you don't really care about it, you don't want to have to do the grading. But if you accidentally check this for a major test, there's no way you're ever going to get it. Okay? So, I usually just leave this alone and go into the grade center and make those changes. Here, this is the feedback area that I wanted to talk about. Or actually, Amy can talk about it, especially the score for question default.
So you have a few options here as you're looking at it. And you'll notice here that when they get it, you can end up doing it at different times. So for instance, you have right after the submission, the very common one. After the due date is a very common one. And then also after availability end date and after all attempts are graded. So it totally depends on what kind of assignment this is. For example, if you're looking at the student being able to take something a few times, that it's for their own benefit mostly. It's really to show them after the submission. If it's something that they're studying for, it could be different for each student. You've got multiple options that people aren't going to share a verbatim answer with each other. Fine, show it right afterwards. Doesn't matter. If it starts to become a bigger deal because of the type of exam that it is, then work your way down the list so that it's not going to be something that's shared. So it's one of my big things. And then you have the score per question. Are they going to see how many points that they got per question? And then when it looks at the answers piece of it, are they going to see all of the answers for the whole thing, just those that are correct or just those that they submitted? And then there's feedback. You can add feedback per question, and you can add feedback per question within Respondus if you wish to, and I'll show you some formatting for that where you can find that. And then also you can just show the incorrect questions.
So for the incorrect indicator,
yeah,
it's a red X if it's wrong,
yes,
green check if it's wrong.
So what you end up being able to see that, let's say you've got, they have to get 100% on something. Okay, you're just showing them which questions they got wrong. So what if I did this and this? So now they can see what they did, what they said, and they can see that they got that incorrect. And in this case, they can see it right after the submission. so they could then take the test again. Yeah.
How is the information different between showing correct questions and score per question? Would score per question also tell them it was incorrect?
Absolutely. The show incorrect questions is just adding that little icon on it, which just that little red X with a green check mark. Otherwise, they have to take a look at the points per question to find out, oh yeah, was it right or wrong? Okay?
Visual.
Yeah. One thing to remember with this score per question is even if you don't check submitted or show incorrect or correct, if you did not check anything but accepted the default that Blackboard had, after submissions, students would see that question. They may not see any answer choices, but they would see the question. So think of it, if somebody is taking it in the morning and you've got another section taking it in the afternoon, you don't want them to be able to see it, because if they can see it, they can print it or grab it with their camera or whatever. If you uncheck the score per question, all they see is their score. And what you can do is after everybody has taken it, is go to that second line there, where it says choose, and now you can say after due date or after everything's graded, and then maybe everybody can see it.
So that piece of it is really, really nice, being able to do that. How many people put feedback in automatic grading? No, nobody does? Okay. The feedback is nice if I don't necessarily like it a lot for stuff that's maybe at a rudimentary level, at a lower level. But sometimes when you have stuff that's an application based, I've seen a lot of math teachers and science teachers use it particularly. If you end up setting up your multiple choice so that if they thought one way, this is how you did it, and they came up with an answer, and you know that that was faulty logic, you can go in and you can explain, this is such and such theorem, what you really mean is this theorem for the answer. So you're basically telling them why their logic was wrong. So sometimes it's very helpful in trying to get somebody to understand what they did rather than just memorizing it. Or you could end up saying, this was discussed in lesson 1, or this was discussed in this lecture, so you can kind of guide them into the right direction as well. So sometimes that feedback is very helpful on trying to help them figure out their own logic.
And you're saying we do this ahead of time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then it's automatic.
Correct.
So you can put it in Blackboard or you can put it in Respondus. And the way to put it in Respondus is if we go back to our Word document, let's see. What I would do here after this, and I don't remember, the tilde and it's the not tilde space correct. And then it's an @ sign incorrect. And so then you would just, you actually have to have a space between the two. And you can just go down through the questions. Yep. Oh, that's nice and large. Okay. So, okay. All right. So you would do those, and the correct always has to be at the top. So we've got information on Respondus. We've got a handout. We'll post it up on the website here so that you can take a look at that, and it shows kind of the formatting. And it's a good reminder for the different codes, the multiple answer, the fill in blank, the essay kind of questions. What I'd like to do, so now that we've gone through here and we've set up the test, then it shows up here. You can go in and you can take the test as a student before other people take it to test it out. So
Highly recommend that, by the way.
So what you can do is you can set yourself, first of all, you have to be a student in your course. Do you know how to be, who knows how to be a student in their own course? Okay, all right. Let's take a look at the top here. See this little eye? Right. You might be familiar with edit mode is on or off. Okay, if it's off, it's how the course looks to the student. If it's on, it's what you can do in the course. If you click on the eye, you can be a student. Not only that, you're a gold star student. You've got a gold bar at the top. Okay? So when you're in there, You can see everything like the students do. What I recommend you do is go to settings and say, don't ask me again, and keep the preview user and data. Keep my stuff, because it'll show up in the Grade Center and you'll be able to see how that looks, and you'll be able to see how the Grade Center looks. For instance, this is the only way you can see that this is what your students see in the Grade Center. All right?
And that is the number one thing students want to see, is their grades, period.
So let's test out your test. I can go in to the test, and I would normally set this as an adaptive release so that I'm the only student that can see this. But if I just go in here and I am taking the test, and I'm just clicking away at different things and entering in text, then I can submit it, and it's going to show up in the Grade Center. I'm going to be able to come down here and click OK and see what kind of feedback I can see right away. Oh, there, I see the question, I see my answer, and I see that it was incorrect. That's what your students can see, and that's how you can tell. Right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to exit the preview. I'm not going to be a student anymore. My gold bar goes away. And if I'm in my assignments, because when you're setting up a test, you don't want other students jumping in and taking the test while you're still playing around with it. What I can do is I can come here and I can choose adaptive release. You can use adaptive release to make things available at a certain date, or membership, or based on a grade or a review status. But here, I want to do it on membership. So I want to do it on a username, and I want to do it on my username. So I'm going to go, I'm going to browse, and I'm going to choose my username and submit. The test down here, it says adaptive release, and that means only I can see it. No other students can see it. If after testing this, we've got some water here.
We've got some water.
After you've tested this out, remember to go back and get rid of that adaptive release. But here's a tip. You can't just go back and undo it. If you're going to turn an adaptive release off, you need to go to adaptive release again. You have to go to the rule and delete it. So there's a couple little tricks here, but it's really nice to know what your test looks like before your students get out there. Okay? Let's go into grading your test now. Okay? I'm actually going to use a smart view to just jump in my test so that I don't see any of my other columns in my grade center. And here's my test. Okay? All right. What I can do is I can just click on in this cell here, and I can grade it, but I want to grade these tests quickly, all right? Some of them are automatically graded, my multiple choice, my multiple answer, my true false, but remember I had some essay questions. I can come here to the action arrow at the top of the column, and do that again. At the top of the column, there's an action arrow. I'm going to choose grading questions.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Sure, yes. Okay. We'll see if we can time it right with the noise. So at the top of the column, I go to my action arrow, pulls up a menu, and I'm choosing grade questions. Right? So when I do that, it's going to show me all my questions and my question types and the number of people who took them. I just did it, so it's all you need. So all of these true, false, multiple answers, they're already graded. If I had to fill in the blank, I could go in and see how they misspelled and if I'm going to give it the answer to them. But here's my essay. This is what I want to look for. I click on the number to the far right, and this is what I love. Unfortunately, I'm the only one who took this test, but all of my students' names would be down here. And so for an essay, I would see all of their answers. You know how when you go in to grade an essay, you get through the first 2 or 3, and then you're saying, oh, do I need to go back and adjust, or now I'm getting the hang of it? You can see all the way down and see what everybody wrote. Scroll back up to the top, click edit, put in your points, type in some feedback, click submit, scroll down to the next person, and just keep moving through. Especially if you've got some standard text that you might be wanting to provide for them, you can copy paste it in and then do some editing on that. Has anybody used this feature before? How does it work for you?
Very easy.
Yeah. You can also choose, I left the names here, but if I go back into the grade, well, I just missed it. Great questions. I was down here. I can hide my usernames, so then I don't have any bias. Okay. Student 1 through. Another nice thing when you're using your test in Blackboard is that you can pull some statistics from them now. Again, I've only got one person in here. I can come here and I can go to column statistics. And I can see how many people took it. And then if I turn my head sideways, over on the right, I've got my bell curve. All right? With my standard gradient. The one that's more important to me, more valuable to me, is if I come to attempt statistics. And when I do that, I can see how many people got it right, how many people got it wrong, and which answer they chose wrong most often, and address that in class the next day. This is great for what I call prime the pump quizzes before they come to class. If you've got assigned readings or videos or things like that, set up a quiz. Maybe you have a factual question or two in there, but maybe you have a question that says, describe an application, or give me an example of this, or link this to a previous chapter, or link the readings and the articles to this, and have them talking about that to see what they pull out. Another question might be, what do you still not understand? What do we need to go back and review? And then I have this test due 3 hours, 2 hours before my class meets, and then I can come in here and I can pull this. I can make any adjustments I need to make in my class. Oh yeah, we got this, we can just move on, or ooh, we need to do some remedial work here. So that's really helpful, but you know how when you ask this well, it's not a hypothetical question, but you ask a question about something, somebody give me an example. You hear crickets in the room, right? You've already got it here. You can take this, copy it out of this, put it up on the screen, and then say, okay, this is what you guys thought. Let's talk about it. Which one should we pick first? Everybody's going to pick something else other than theirs, but you've got something to start with. And you haven't lost that value for yourself. Are there ways that you're using tests in Blackboard or things you'd like to do?
Well, I've used Respondus to prevent students from going to other websites during the exam. The lockdown browser,
That's Respondus Lockdown Browser, which is a related but different product. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Which is great.
Has anybody else used that before? Respondus lockdown browser?
Nursing department.
Okay.
I just have a question. So if you're editing, so go back to the exam. So right now the exams we have is not available to students, of course. But when you're reviewing the exam and you're off the edit mode, do you have to open the exam and students can see it, or how will see it?
Are you saying when you're reviewing the exam after they've taken it?
No, before.
So you're a preview user.
Yes.
They would not see that. You're only getting it because you are the preview user.
Okay, so as long as the edit mode is off, they won't be able to see it.
No.
No.
Okay.
It can't be deployed.
Okay.
Or the
It's not
date, or the
available.
date it's not available yet. you would have to set a date on this, for instance, to not be available. If I edit my test options,
Yeah, it's not available,
okay, right.
but if I want to preview it.
But if you want to preview it and just see how it looks and not have, see how all the feedback is, then you can just click in it as an instructor and take the test, okay? Right. If you wanted to show up in the grade center and see how those things look, then you have to go through this extra step of being a student. Okay. So, preview is very easy, quick way to go in and see it. Yeah. Good question.
The other thing in the grade center is using the question analysis to get the materials and other test data.
Do you use that a lot? Yes, you have to run it. And I think I ran one earlier.
This is one person.
Let's see if I can find it down here.
The
Jane.
analysis will stay in the test that you ran it in, so you don't have to go to an email. If you just go back to the test that you ran it on, you'll see an analysis from the last time you ran it.
Yep, yeah. I was just thinking that if it would save some time, I didn't know how long it would take. But yeah, but there it is.
You're also a new game.
I'm sorry?
You're behind.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Feel free to contact us.
Yeah, we will end up posting the link to the formatting stuff for this, so just keep your eyes out.
On the website, and we'll send an email out back to us because we'll be posting recordings and other resources.
So anybody registered will end up getting an email. Showing the links to all the courses.
Thank you.